Hello, today I've got an art haul to share with you. Some of it is because I've got a new project in mind, which I'll talk about in a minute, and some of it is because I've been sorting out my craft areas of my dining room, and then some of it is just because. So first off, I've got these Art Philosophy water-soluble oil pastels. And this is the Rustic selection. I think they do at least one other range of colours. If any of you have watched some of my other videos, you might know that I've been interested in oil pastels lately, and then I've been looking at the water-soluble oil pastels. So I tried out gelatos, which I really enjoyed, these more translucent ones. And then I've also reviewed these Mijello oil pastels, which I didn't get on particularly well with. And somebody suggested this brand, so they weren't too expensive, and I picked up this set and I thought the colours looked really nice in it. So they don't look a million miles different from the Mijello pastels. They're pretty much identical size. So let's have a quick scribble with them and see how we get on. They're quite nice. They're getting some of the kind of crumb on. But from what I remember, I think these are a bit moister than the Mijello ones. I'll compare them in a minute. This one's noticeably harder. Oops, well, that one's a hard one. Ooh, that's lovely, dark grey. Actually, before I wet them, I'll just do a couple of comparisons with the Mijello ones. Whoops. Now the Mijello ones are actually performing better than they did last time I used them. I'm wondering if it's because it's a warmer day today. There's only a similar amount of crumb coming off. This one broke. That's a very hard one. So actually not a huge amount of difference there. Let's just try wetting them. It was the drier crumbs of the Mijello that I was struggling with last time. Let me get rid of some of them. Oops. Because they seem warmer now, the crumbs aren't so crumbly and dry and getting everywhere. They're kind of sticking together better and they're easier to remove. So actually I'd say that these are pretty comparable sets, and actually the colours are quite close. Though the Art Philosophy ones are in the 12 set, and there's 24 in the Mijello set. Oh, well, that makes me happy that the Mijello ones are performing better. Now this was the harder one, and it's definitely releasing the pigment with more difficulty. That green was the harder one of the Mungio. Okay. So not much difference there. I'll have to get using them more now I've got pretty much duplicates. So yeah, that's the first thing. And while I'm on the subject of oil pastels, this is the next thing that I bought. You might have seen one of my oil pastel videos where I was talking about blending, and I'd got this really firm foam wedge blender that came with the Faber-Castell gelatos, and I really enjoyed it for blending my normal oil pastels. And makeup sponges and all that kind of thing are too soft compared to this, so I've been on the hunt for something similar for when this one wears out. I'd seen these dense foam kind of cleaning pads. Oh dear, what's this gone in my paint? So yeah, they're actually softer. Just cut off a wedge though. Oops. And see how they perform. Lay some oil pastel down. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, it works, but it because it's softer, I'll try and show you, it kind of moves around. The foams just moves around too much, so you haven't got as much control with what's going on the paper surface. Try and show you the same with the gelato one. So you can see when I'm doing it, the sponge itself isn't moving around very much, so I'm controlling where the oil pastel's going a lot more easily. So unfortunately, I think I'm just going to have to use these for cleaning. One thing I did find though, I mentioned I'd been having this massive clear out. I'd got these foam inserts which came out of a stamping block case. These filled in the gaps where the clear acrylic blocks sit in the case. And I'd hung on to them because sometimes I use them as a surface for stamping onto. But I thought, oh, they are really quite rigid. So I chopped an edge off and tried out this as well. And it worked pretty well. See, there's not too much give in the foam. And it's quite nice texture to hold. It doesn't feel too plasticky. So I've got that much. I've got those which I can chop up, so they'll keep me going for a good long while now. And I'm really happy that that's a good oil pastel blending tool for me. So while I was having my clear out, I've got this paint palette which is got some more pastel watercolours in it, or more opaque watercolours. And I didn't like the way the ring sat on the back. Well, it wasn't really lying flat enough in my cupboard. So I tried to remove it and it was a lot harder than I thought. So yeah, good build quality by Rowney. But then I'm left with this really sharp thing here. As a kid, we used to go on loads of walking holidays in the Lake District, and we always used to get Kendal mint cake. And so I bought this tin of Kendal mint cake, which I've been eating this week. But I think if I rejig the paints around a bit, whoops. If I rejig the paints around, there's some gap there. I think I'll be able to fit them in here. And then that's nice and smooth on both sides then. I think that's a really pleasing little tin. So I'll be transferring those over at some point soon. Now, in my last haul video, of things I'd bought over the early summer. I've really been enjoying these Princeton Neptune brushes. And so I decided to buy the other set of them. They're pretty good value. So it was this brush in particular. I haven't had an oval wash before and I really fancied giving that a go. So this is the 1/2 inch oval wash and then the 3/4 inch square wash. So the 1/2 inch comes in the other set, and I love this brush, so I'm going to enjoy this one, I think. And then I've got the number 12 round. I had the 8 in the other set and I've used that quite a bit as well. And then a number 4. So I'll show you the next thing and then I'll try these out because the next thing is paint. So I've seen these around for quite a long time now and kept resisting, but then I had an idea of something I wanted to do and these seem like they might be really good for it. So this is the Mijello Pure Pigment set, Mission Gold. So there's 24 15ml tubes in this set and then 2 additional 7ml tubes, and 24 of them are single pigment colours. So it looks like there are 48 of the Pure Pigment range. There's a few different size sets, but looking through all the pigment numbers and things, the 24 set I felt I'd be best served with. Just some of the paint qualities. So the 2 additional smaller ones are Chinese white and ivory black. They're so pretty. I like the really clear labelling on these tubes actually. Something else that I bought was from Jackson's Art, and I didn't know these existed till recently, and when I saw them and realised that they did, I got really excited because it's empty paint tubes. And so what I want to do is mix some of my own colours up, and I went through all of my tube paints that I've got so far, and a lot of mine are super granulating colours which are already quite a big mix of colours, or other mixed pigments, and I don't have many duplicates of these pigments at all, so I thought I'd go for it and just have real fun with mixing up colours that I just absolutely love and then making my own tubes of them. And when I was in France recently with my parents, I was just thinking about this colour mixing idea, and as well as the tubes, I thought it'd be nice to have little, bigger than a dot card, but little sample colour palettes. And so my dad made this for me, just like a tree slice. He just roughly made it in a couple of minutes or so, with little wells to put sample paints in. And I just thought that'd make nice little gifts for friends and things, especially if they're colours that I've mixed up myself. And so also part of this haul, I've got some larger wood coasters that I thought I could drill little dents into and make my own little mini palettes. And I've got some little baby wood slicers for single samples. So I probably don't need that many, but I get really excited when I've got a new project in mind, so this is where we are. I'll swatch a few of these paints out now and I'll do a fuller review on the set at a later date. But yeah, that's another box. I think there's 10 in there. So yes, I've got 20 paints I can be mixing up for starters. All right, let's just pick some out. So this is Quinacridone Violet, PV19. I haven't tried any Mission Gold paints before. and this is the 1/2 inch oval wash brush. I got this brush because I thought it might be quite nice for doing like large loose florals. Now I'd heard that these paints aren't super fast flowing, and I do like that property, but I have got lots of fast flowing paints like Core and Rosa Gallery already, so take a look at what these do anyway. So this is the Quinacridone Permanent Rose PB19. Yeah, so quite slow flowing, which will give you more control in certain painting situations. So I'll just show you a comparison with a Core paint. Just get out the 12 round. Okay, so I've got a lot of water here. This is the Mission Gold. And then I've got Quinacridone Magenta. So you can see the difference in how the paint moves. And I'm not saying either are a good or a bad thing. It's just knowing the qualities of the paints so you know a little of what to expect. Try some Cobalt Turquoise Hue PB28. So a little bit of binder came out with that one, but not an awful lot. That's nice. This brush is lovely as well. Just holds a huge amount of water. And now just try out the baby brush, the number 4, with Cobalt Green Deep, which is PB36. So I'm just making a mess with these. Well, I've not played with them much really, but the brushes I know I love, and the paints I don't have any worries about. I think they'll be really nice to work with, and I'm looking forward to swatching all of those out. So a couple of books and pads now. I got another one of my standard Canson XL watercolour pads, which I just like for swatching and rough stuff. It's pretty affordable cellulose paper, and I use it all the time for playing on. The next is a book, Wildflower Watercolour by Sushma Hegde, and I came across Sushma on Instagram, and I really like the simple pretty flowers that she does. And she's got a large selection of flowers and little tutorials on how to do each one. And I think simple flowers like this are just a really nice way to relax and just enjoy playing with a nice paintbrush and some paint. And she has some really nice floral arrangements as well. I like how she combines the different flowers together. This is definitely one of those books when you're feeling a bit stumped. You can have a flick through and feel inspired. So yeah, Wildflower Watercolour by Sushma Hegde. And then this next book, The Book of Earth by Heidi Gustafson. I saw it when I was in the Tate St Ives Modern Art Gallery shop, and it was absolutely love at first sight. A guide to ochre, pigment and raw colour. And it is just one of the most beautiful books that I've ever seen. And the way that it's written, it kind of reads like poetry as well. It's just, everything about it is lovely. And I felt so inspired by these landscape pictures as well. It made me want to paint something like that. So it just goes through various different pigments. And it does it colour by colour. So yes, some books you just see and absolutely fall in love with, and they just make you happy, and this is one of them. And these softer kind of colours are some of the kind of colours I think I'd like to mix when I start mixing my own paints. Aren't they lovely? And that's The Book of Earth by Heidi Gustafson. If you've seen any of my other videos, you might have seen my luminance folder, well, with a few hole binding. I did a video on putting this together and making a colour chart for it. And it's worked so well. I think I'm using my pencils more than I ever did before, just because they're so easy to access, and I can just go straight to the colours I want with these. Each page matches up with leaves in the case. So I decided that I wanted to do this with all my colour pencils. And so I've got 3 more identical pencil cases. Yeah, that's great, they're all the same. So I've got one for my polychromos and one for my new light fast that I've got this year, and then another for the Derwent Inktense that I've got. And I've got a few of the extra new colours that I can add in as well, which will be really nice. So I might well be doing a video on filling those cases and making the colour charts for each of those. And I don't think I showed a video of this, but I had got another case after I'd done my luminance pencils, and I put in majority of my watercolour pencils. So the Albrecht Dürers, and then my Graphy tints, and then my old Derwent watercolour pencils. And then, although these aren't watercolour pencils, I've got my Derwent drawing ones in the back. They fit in really nicely there. And then I also got another paint palette. I've been trying to figure out a good way to keep all my paints, and I feel like I'd like to have a portable palette that's a bit bigger. So I've got all those, and then I've got some additional empty half pans to fit in a row along the middle. I'm not 100% sure which ones are going to make it into this palette, but I'll have fun figuring that out at a later date. And then I have two more products which I am also really excited about. And the first is some Flashe Paints from Le Franc Bourgeois. And my understanding is that probably the closest paints to these are acrylic gouache. So water-soluble paints which dry permanently to a matte finish. But I've seen these around for a while now. And first of all, I just bought this set from Amazon, the starter set. I haven't tried any of these out yet. So I think these are 20ml tubes. And you've got some good starter colours there. And a matte varnish. Be interesting to experiment with. So I was just going to have a play with these and see how I got on with them. Because I do really love my gouache paints and my acrylic gouache. But then I saw that Cass Art had a sale on the larger size of these paints, and so I went a little bit mad, I'm afraid. I got some of the other colours. They all came wrapped in loads of recycled paper, so I have unwrapped those. But I haven't actually painted with any of them yet. These colours are just so gorgeous to me. Left to right, top to bottom, these paints are Verdaccio, Chromium Oxide Green, Still de Grand Green, Grey Green, White. The second row is Veronese Green Hue, Water Green, Blue Ash, Royal Blue, Prussian Blue Hue, and the bottom row is Venetian Pink, Sepia Brown, Raw Sienna, Pink Grey, and Naples Yellow Light. Oh, and not necessarily in keeping with my landscape colours, I've also got fluorescent pink. So I'm going to open a couple now and have a play with them, and let's hope I like them now that I've bought so much. So I'm swatching with a relatively firm Rosemary & Co Ivory Short Flat. Right, the colour that started it all off. I'll try them first without adding any water. Oh my word, that's lovely. It's so opaque. And now there's quite a big range of these paints. I can't remember offhand, I'll stick it on the video after. And I did try and pick out the ones which were opaque, because I did like really opaque for my gouache type paints. But that is really lovely. And it's a really nice consistency as well without adding any water. It's soft enough to use as it is. So all of the other paints I've got are opaque. It's just a little solid black square on the front. Except for two which are semi-opaque. So I'll try one of those out. And then I've got one which is translucent. So I'll try those two out so you can see the different opacities. Right, dry my brush again. Actually, it might be a bit hard to see with such a light colour how opaque it is. I'll just do the other semi-opaque one because we might be able to see better how. Whoa! Oh, this is so bright on my eyes. Yeah, so I think that's a reasonable kind of description as being semi-opaque. You can see some of the paper kind of coming through. Now I'll try the translucent one. I think these are quite fast drying and you can build them up to get more opacity if you want it. The solid colour is gorgeous too. So that first one I did, I haven't taken any breaks in videoing, and that's pretty dry. Slightly tacky but fairly dry. How does the opaque one go over? Okay, and then I'm just going to try a light coloured opaque paint over the top of the dark. So when it's really thin, if you're brushing it really quite thinly, it's not totally opaque. But that's pretty good when it's that thick. And it's not particularly hard to apply it that thick. I'll do a separate video on these and swatch out all the colours that I've got, see how they mix. And I'm excited to try and do a looser, more kind of expressive style landscape with them. Actually, before I go on to the last couple of items that I've got, I just really feel like mixing up a little colour wheel from this little starter pack that I got. Now these two are semi-opaque colours. Or actually, all three of these are semi-opaque colours. Get a smaller brush. Oh, they are so nice. So smooth. And I just really like the consistency of them as they are. I didn't wet this brush first. And just straight away it's like, well, maybe not perfect consistency for everybody, but for me, an absolutely lovely consistency that I'll be happy to work with. Actually, I should have dried the brush there. Let me dry it a bit more. That's lovely. And then the last thing I look at just now is how the white operates. If it's more like a mixing white or a titanium white, a stronger white. Oh, and these also have pigment information on. So PW5, PW6 for the white. Let's see this bit blue. Yeah, that's great. That's quite a strong white. Oh my gosh, I'm going to enjoy that so much. So it's got the 20mm white in it, but I also bought a tub of the white as well because I know that I'll get through it for making even more soft pastel colours. Yeah, and those are dry, even that orange is nearly dry now. And then the last thing I have, some more things from Cass Art, are these Liquitex acrylic markers, all the large 15mm nib size. Now I think I've used 3 of these. So if you've seen in a couple of my recent landscape videos, I've used these in it just for adding some expressive marks at the very end. I've had these 3 large Poscas for a while now and enjoy those. I really liked these Liquitex colours. And again, I've stuck with mainly landscapey kind of colours just because that's what I'm into at the moment. So I'll just open one of these up and get it going. Oh, and then I bought quite a cheap Rowney Filbert brush. I haven't got any Filberts, and I thought it might be nice to try for doing petals as well, for giving florals a go. So again, this is the green that I quite fancied in particular. So I've given it a good shake. I just love the size of these nibs. They force you to not be too detailed. So you've got a transparency rating, you've got pigment information, and it says that they're permanent and light fast. So excellent light fast rating, and they're a water-based acrylic. And the couple that I've used, they do dry with a slight sheen. I would probably prefer if they were matte, but it doesn't bother me all that much. Try this bronze yellow. Oh, so that was Hooker's Green Permanent Hue. So some parts of the green have dried already. So that's pretty good contact with the marker tip on the paper. And then obviously you've got a lot of other options for size of nibs, just moving the nib around. Could even do calligraphy with the end of it. So I'll just try out this Filbert brush. Just picked up some of the Mission Gold paint from before. So yeah, it just gives that nice blunt edge. And that's not as stiff as some acrylics, though it's not going to hold as much water as the imitation squirrels, like the Princeton Neptune though. Great, I'm happy with that. And then the very last thing that I've got to show you is this Princeton Snap brush. And I got a number 12 round. I think one of my viewers recommended this, and I'd also seen a couple of YouTube artists using this, and I was curious how it compares with other brushes for its snap ability. So the ability of the bristles to bounce back into place. Let's have a look. Sorry, my swatch sheets are terrible. It's actually softer than I was imagining. And probably holds more water than I was imagining as well. But that's really nice. Again, this was for florals, like loose florals. That's really nice actually. I've bought quite a few brushes over the last little while and I've been really pleased with them. And I think I've got a set of brushes that I'll probably just want to use for years and years, in the same way that I have done from first buying my silver black velvet brushes. Though I'm trying to find synthetic versions now. But I'll probably do a video on my brushes and show some of the different ranges that I've got and the differences in their properties, just in case that's helpful to anybody. Also, if anyone has any suggestions for videos that they might like to see, either comparing products that I've got or just seeing how different products work, please let me know, because I'm always happy to play around with stuff. Well, thanks ever so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed seeing these new to me products, and hopefully see you next time. Bye!